That same gentleman has done that. Security, you might want to pick up those people too. At least keep an eye on them as well too. Well, Amazon Go is a concept store that we've created that allows you to use some of the technologies, cloud-based technologies. It could be artificial intelligence, machine learning, payment systems as well too, to allow somebody like that gentleman over there to be honest, to walk into the store, be identified, pick up an item, and then walk out as well too. And the reason we're doing this is to test out new concepts that remove friction from our customers. Right? It might not seem, it might be a normal concept where you just take your wallet out, you take a credit card, and you go and buy something, and that's fine too. But sometimes you might encounter long lines, you might not be able to find what you're looking for. So in these stores, the idea is that you won't have to go through something that's undifferentiated at the store, where you would go to somebody as a cashier, and they would go and punch in your order and walk out. That's something that can be done with technology. What's even more important is that person who's in that role can take on a more value-added service. They can spend time with their customers. They can maybe develop other areas of focus, like making a sandwich for customers out there, bring new lines of services to their customers as well too. So this is a concept, again, how we're innovating on behalf of our customers, working backwards from our customers. I'm going to use this opportunity to do also a shout out to a startup that I met actually a couple years ago, and I was delighted to see here as well today. They're called Lazy Weight. They're in the corner of the pavilion area out there. Lazy Weight is from Saudi Arabia. They won a regional competition to be here today. And what they're doing is they're using technologies in the cloud to build out solutions for their customers, which are restaurants, and their customers' customers, which is the restaurant's patrons, people like you and me going into a restaurant. And I was delighted to hear as they talked about what they're doing, how they're working backwards from the customer. They're saying, well, Zubin, don't you hate waiting to get seated at a restaurant? What if you could just walk in? Similar to that gentleman walking into the store and then walking out with something in his pocket. And so I said, of course, I said yes. And they said, and wouldn't you like to be able to see a dynamic menu that highlights your preferences as well? And I said, that sounds actually pretty good too. And then also work with the waiter or the maitre d' of the restaurant to understand other concepts as well in terms of the menu, the food, or any other items. And I said, hey, that sounds great. They got me on 3 items, and I like dealing with 3s. So he said, so these 2 gentlemen were explaining this to me. This is Asad and Ajman, 2 identical twins, by the way, so you'll be able to find them out there. I won't say which one is the cooler one of the 2. It's Ajman. But you can find them out there and learn more about what they're doing. So really delighted to hear the startups are taking this approach of working backwards from the customer and learning from their customers as well, too, and congratulations to them. I mentioned that I'll cover the culture of innovation at Amazon. So, in terms of how we do it at Amazon, it's not like we're waking up every day and saying we need to be more innovative. We are saying that we need to be customer obsessed. We need to work backwards from our customers. We want to think long term as well too. If you think short term, you're going to get short term results. You think long term, you're going to be there for a while. And we also want to invent and be willing to fail. I'm going to touch on that a little bit later in the presentation as well too. That's a hard thing to do, by the way, to take these risks and fail. It's not easy, but you have to have that ability to take those risks and also be able to be misunderstood for a while. And we'll touch on an example on that as well too. So first on the customer obsession side, this is really our secret sauce, if you will. It's not so secret. I put it up here, presentation. I see cameras coming out. It's a good side here. So this right here, what you're looking at is what we call the Amazon flywheel, or the virtuous circle. And what that is saying right here, this cycle or circle, is that if you provide a service to a customer that they like, they'll use it. If you reduce the price or add features that they're looking for, they'll continue to use it even more. They'll tell their friends. You'll also attract a community around that. You'll get sellers and other folks to come and be part of that community too, and that will help you to also offer more services and drive down the cost. And if you keep doing that, you're going to be around for a while, and this is what we do with all our offerings. We take that sort of approach with our customers as we move forward. Now, another part was the concept of you're making decisions and thinking long term here. So here's an idea of being stubborn on the vision. So when we come up with a concept, and I'm going to show you an example in a moment, we say, well, why are we doing this? What is the benefit here to the customer? Why are we making this happen? And we stay pretty stubborn on that. But in terms of how or what we're going to do, we're very flexible. And we'll work as teams, we'll work with partners, we'll work with customers to get that right solution out there. So here's an example. If you're familiar with the Kindle, this is an e-reader. To your left, that is the Kindle first generation. And the main, most lovable feature that we added onto this Kindle was the ability to download books through a 3G connection. So you didn't need to use your phone, you didn't need to be on a Wi-Fi, you could just get a book anywhere. And that feature really took off. If you look at the device itself, it is pretty clunky. And this is like, we're talking about 2007. So it wasn't necessarily the most I can't say the word. Anybody help with the word? Ergomatic device in terms of putting in your hand. But it did a very exciting feature that customers weren't used to and were delighted by as well. And now you see a more recent version on the right. So we continue to iterate and make that service better. Going to jump into the idea of being misunderstood for a long time. So often when we think about our customers and we think about the services we want to bring out there, it may not be intuitive of why is Amazon playing in this field. I'll give you an example. If you've heard of Amazon Web Services is the cloud computing part of Amazon. We're going to touch a little bit more on that as we go through this talk. But when we first came out with it, people were saying, well, why is this e-commerce play, a bookseller, offering technology services? And the reason why is we realized that a problem that we were facing in terms of scaling and making features available was one that our customers were actually feeling as well too. So if we made that service available, maybe they'd love it and adopt it, and they sure have, to the point that today this one part of Amazon is a $30 billion US business. Now I'm going to talk about how we organize. So this was the other part about organizing in terms of innovation. So we have 4 areas: the mechanisms, our architecture, which I'll touch on, our culture, and then how we actually organize the people and how we organize our teams and empower them to come up with stuff. So first of all, if you haven't got the message, we work backwards from our customers. We're always working backwards from the customers, to the point that when we have our team meetings, even here with my team, we always try to make sure that we have at least one chair in the room that is empty, and that chair represents the customer. Because we could lose we could lose sight of what we're trying to do for our customers, talk about features, we might talk about new products, and then forget that actually at the end of the day, we're building for our customers. So to do this and to help center ourselves when we have an idea, we take this process. We ask ourselves these questions as we write in what we call a press release. This is not a press release that we're going to hand over to a news outlet. This is something that we use internally to help center our thoughts. And what we do in this case is we ask, who is the customer? Who are we trying to serve by this? Is there actually a customer behind this? Is there an opportunity that we're trying to work with our customers on, or a problem to help solve, or removing friction? Are there benefits? Is there a need or potential want? And what would the actual experience look like? So press release could be quite simple as this. This is an actual press release we did internally for the Kindle device in 2007. And this is how we wrote it. So it reads like a press release, and it helps center our thoughts. In addition to that, we actually do what we call an FAQ, or frequently asked questions. We do one internal for some questions that might come from multiple teams, and we have a team, a small team structure in the company, multiple small teams, and we also do an external one too to see what kind of questions might come out. Like for instance, how much would the device cost, or where would it be available, or who would distribute it? We'd do that type of FAQ as well too. And that helps us to get to a point where we can start kind of drawing out what the experience is. We can either build a prototype by hand or sketch something out as well too. The more developed the idea is, the more high fidelity you'll see in terms of the SketchUps here on the right versus the left. And what you'll notice here, I haven't talked about coding, I haven't talked about actual physical hardware prototyping yet. All we're doing right now is validating the idea, getting feedback from our peers and from the market as well too before we start investing in this. This takes a lot of upfront work, but it pays off in the long term too. And I believe as many of you guys are doing your startups, you probably take a very similar approach. I hope what you're not doing is coming up with an idea and then running out and seeing if you can get somebody to do the software development behind that. I would really stress try to get feedback, and then move towards development, even with yourselves. Get some of your coding skills out and get your laptops out and see if you can build it too. And this is the approach that we take. In terms of how our architecture as well too. So really quickly, this was the first Amazon website. Is there anybody in the room today that would buy anything from a website that looked like this? Anybody want to put up your hands? Even the same gentleman who walks into stores and takes things and walks out said no. He put both his hands down. Yeah, exactly. So this was the first site. But what it did is it allowed us to test our hypothesis. We put that out there, and then what we ended up getting was this idea that people would actually put their credit card in and buy. How this actually looked in terms of a few years later is we had this internal monolithic system called Obidos. Obidos is a fast-flowing river in the Amazon. And there's a town called Obidos, and it's a tributary, so it moves very quickly. But our internal architecture was very slow. So we realized that we had to break this up. And now this is the most exciting part of the presentation if this works. This was not done with machine learning. This was not done with artificial intelligence. This was done by just pure presentation skills. Did it work? There you go. So this is what we did. We broke up our architecture into multiple parts, and really what it looks like is multiple APIs where our customers, and we're internally as well too, we can grab the services we need to bring out solutions for our customers. Services like storage or databases, but also artificial intelligence or machine learning or blockchain or business analytics as well. So this is what it looks like today. These are the different services that we have. And I'll jump really quickly in terms of the final two ones, which are our culture. So in our culture at Amazon, we have these leadership principles. And these leadership principles, there's 14 of them, and they help guide us in hiring, they help us make decisions, and they also help us to ultimately get out the products and services that we bring for our customers. So a really important part of our culture. We also hire builders. This is a key point. When we meet people who want to work at Amazon and we want to come on board, we try to make sure that they can build things, that they can actually put things together. And you'll see why that's important as we move to the organization. We, and as many startups do, and I want to make sure you don't lose this as you start to grow, because at Amazon we feel like we're a startup. We have about 500,000 people, but we're a pretty large startup, but we feel like we're a startup. And as you go on your journey, we want to make sure that you have this sort of concept of building and experimenting as well too. So we hire builders that will experiment. We have this concept of making decisions quickly. And when we make a decision, we put a litmus test. And the litmus test is simply, is this a one-way door? If I walk through this, will I not be able to walk back? Most decisions in life are not one-way doors. There are a few. I won't get into them right now. Most of them are one-way doors. And then, so not one-way doors. Two-way doors are where you can come back as well too. So make a decision quickly. You can always come back in most cases. We learn from our failure. So this is a highlight of learning from failures and then continuing to build stuff as well. And this was the Amazon Echo device. So I'm going to summarize right now in terms of how we organize ourselves. I mentioned we have multiple small teams. We call them 2 pizza teams. These are teams that you could feed with 2 pizzas. They're small so that they can move quickly and they're empowered. And they work with, of course, other teams to bring out the services and products and solutions that we bring to our customers. To summarize this, we could have just put this one slide here and this would have summarized, but really the focus here is focus on your customer. Invent, constantly invent and iterate and bring new solutions, and be patient. It's not easy, and I know it's not easy doing a startup, but as you bring a new service out, definitely be patient. We're delighted to be working with startups across the world and in MENA. This is a super call out to many of the startups, and many of them are here today, by the way, as well, too. Please go introduce yourselves to them, or if you are one of those startups, talk to everybody. I do want to stress that we have an early stage startup program for startups. It's called Activate. We work with a lot of the accelerators and venture capitalists around the world and here in the Middle East. If you're here today and you're a VC or accelerator, please stop by our booth, and we're happy to get you started on that so you can offer this to your startups as well too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zubin.
Well done.
Next, we have a keynote speech delivered by Ahmed Naimi from BIBF about the emergence of technopreneurs in the digital age. Enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you, Aziza, for the introduction. It's quite a bit cold here in the hall, right? Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Ahmed Naimi. I'm the head of digital transformation, operations, and project management at the BIBF. I'm going to talk about a very dear subject to my heart, something as I've actually worked throughout my life on, but I've actually moved careers and jobs and all that. Just a bit, I'm just going to run you through my career for a bit in terms of what I've actually done and how it's actually relating to the topic that I'm actually going to talk about today. I started my career actually early on, about 20 years back, in 1999. I started working in this small law firm that actually does immigration cases. So brings in immigration cases, small number, processes them, and executes them. We were about 3 to 4 employees in total. In that office itself, the actual competition started becoming very fierce. So I remember in '99, my boss, who was the lawyer and the CEO of the company, he came in and he said, he gathered all the staff, 3, 4 individuals, and said, look, you guys, if we do not make a change in the way that we do business, we're not going to be in business in a few years' time. So what do you think of what we should do? And we started discussing and blah, 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 talking about all the aspects of how we can actually change the perspective in this law firm. we owned a domain name called immigration.ca and said, let's capitalize on this domain name. Let's change the perspective. Let's make a portal, put it online, and see how it goes. We did that. We put that portal online. We did one small change, one innovative aspect that actually changed that industry in Canada, basically, in the immigration business, from that organization, which I'm going to talk about at a later stage. The business now, today as we speak, is a multi-million-dollar business that actually gets about 1 million unique visitors a day to the site. It's a huge business now in Canada. I actually left that company in 2004 when I joined the banking sector. I came to Bahrain and said, I have all this passion about technology and everything. Let me bring it to Bahrain, start making a change. I worked in the banking sector for about 10 years. I've worked on the merger of 3 banks. I was the IT team lead for 3 banks, merging 3 banks together. Then in 2014, I saw that myself more towards the human capital development. I wanted to actually add value to people around me and all that. I wanted to bring programs, technology programs to Bahrain, initiatives. So I joined the BIBF in 2014. For those who do not know the BIBF, it's a 38-year-old institution that is basically governed by the Central Bank of Bahrain. We do about 63, we train in about 63 countries across the world. So either our trainers actually fly out or we get delegations coming to Bahrain, and we offer about 400 plus programs in the Kingdom of Bahrain, which basically focuses on different disciplines, whether banking, Islamic finance, accounting, project management, and now we have the technology arm basically in the BIBF, which in this digital era. Enough I've said about myself and the company. How many startups do we have here today? I just want to see, raise your arms. I just want to know the number of startups that we have in this room. Cool, nice. I know it's a startup event, and I know majority are going to be startups. Just to get to move forward, you guys actually make all the difference in the world. You play a significant role in the economy growth. Everything that we actually work towards in the economy, you make that difference. You actually create the jobs. You create more employment. You play a big role in the economic dynamism, which basically spurs innovation, brings those new ideas, new creative aspects, and at the same time you inject competition, which gives you that aggressive nature in terms of making it happen. And all that, in turn, improves the economy. And you actually shape up industries, shape up the country as a whole. Why I'm saying this? Alibaba, if we see Alibaba and how actually changed the perspective of Hangzhou, they actually created 35 million jobs in Hangzhou itself. We have Microsoft, how actually changed Redmond and created a sort of a small, smart city. At the same time, we have Google, how they actually changed, impacted Mountain View, California. The economy started boosting there. All that, they all share a common factor. Those 3 organizations, or any of those organizations that, tech-based organizations, they share a common factor. They are all entrepreneurs, yes, we know that. They're all entrepreneurs. But one aspect that I actually want to highlight, it's entrepreneurship 2.0. I call it entrepreneurship 2.0 or entrepreneurs 2.0, which in turn leads me to the next topic that we want to talk about, which is technopreneurship. It's no longer, you have all those capabilities in terms of running the business. Of course, you're not going to be where you are if you don't have the entrepreneurial capabilities. But what makes the difference is all those companies that I talked about, they are technopreneurs. What is technopreneurship? Does anyone of you know that? Hands? No? Wow, it's a new terminology, I know that. It's basically a basic formula. So you have entrepreneurship skills, add to it innovation, add to it technology, and you get that technopreneurship aspect. So it's a very basic formula, but it's not that easy to actually achieve or reach to. Now, let's talk about what makes you a technopreneur. One aspect, innovation and creativity. In entrepreneurship, you have to have the skills of entrepreneurship, as I mentioned. However, in entrepreneurship, basically, you are identifying an opportunity, building your business, and you're having a successful business model. And technopreneurship, on the other hand, is you're identifying an idea. You're taking that idea and defining every practice, every system that is existing, and you're adding to it your own mindset. And add to that the helm of technology. So you add that element of technology throughout the process, and you get that technovation that you have. Let's look at Uber. Uber didn't do any rocket science or anything major. All what they did is that they changed the economics of the cab and taxi industry through just embedding a GPS system into their integrated app. As simple as that. Now, going back to my journey as well, in the immigration.ca business, the website that I actually worked on, what is the element that made that company succeed? In early 2000, what we did on the website is we added this simple form that you see. Very simple form. Just taking the information from people from across the world. We made a major marketing campaign on the website. We marketed, at that time, there was Overture, Demos, AltaVista, all those search engines. And we just added a lot of major campaign into those search engines prior to Google coming on. And we just marketed that form. We reached the world. So basically, all the information that we took from the form, what we did is we added a small component at the back end, which it's a CRM-based system, which basically takes all the information, processes it, and gives it to the employee ready with all the results and everything of that individual. And that cut down the time of the employee from 20 minutes per case to 20 seconds and 3 clicks. All it took for them to actually answer you back with your qualifications, if you can immigrate to Canada or not. As simple as that. And since that time, to be honest with you, it started growing big. Second aspect I wanted to mention is the reverse mentoring. Every time we look at mentoring, we think of, oh, those experienced guys, the ones that are in the market, the elderly guys, they had a long track of experience. Actually, in technopreneurship, it's quite different. As much as you're going to look at for those experienced individuals that you want advice from, you will actually need to reconsider. You need to look at those guys. The younger generation, the guys that actually are the digital age individuals, the new generation, they are the ones that are going to give you the fresh look. You need to actually challenge your app or your application with the younger generation, at least 10 years younger than yourself. Drive and passion, of course. If you're not passionate about it, I heard Sheikh Mohammed a few minutes ago talked on the panel about the passion as well. If you're not passionate about it, no one else will be. So if you're not passionate about what you do, you don't have the drive, no one else will do it for you. You should have that real passion in terms of driving your technology forward. This is basically, I don't know if most of you know, this is the house of Steve Jobs. This is where Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs started Apple from, in the garage. And as we know, Steve Wozniak was here last week, actually. I attended the Euro Money conference. And I saw the passion in this guy. His passion was mostly towards the computer hardware, engineering. Whereas, as we know, Steve Jobs, his passion was more lying towards building tools that unleashes the creativity aspect in individuals. So adding them together, we see the Apple that we see today. Now, if we give a round of applause, actually, for our startups in Bahrain. I'm very proud about a lot of startups that were actually started in Bahrain, and they are actually reaching the world regionally. One GCC, Arawi, Telp actually, who won Mashroui Award just a few days back. I'm actually very passionate about it because they are very passionate about their product. If you see their Instagram, you see their story, they always talk about their projects in a very passionate manner. And that's why they're actually making it happen, and they're reaching the region. Experiment and take risks. Of course, without experimenting, you will not be able to make it. Elon Musk actually failed more than 10 times before actually he thrilled the world. I'm actually going a bit faster because I'm running out of time. Tech savvy. All the elements that I've actually talked about, it will not be possible without embedding technology in each and every stage of the process. In every stage, you will need to add the element of technology, and that's why you're going to be called technopreneurs. So talking about AI, talking about artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, fintech, blockchain, all those elements are very important, crucial for you to actually learn about, get to know them deeply in order for you to actually make that change. So enough said about that. What will you find if you actually search for technopreneur on the net? I had difficulty actually myself in searching on the net and trying to find something about surveys or statistics about technopreneurship. To my astonishment, okay, we know that tech industry started from the US, UK, China, they are leading that. But what I actually found, these 3 countries, India, Singapore, and Malaysia, those countries, independently of each other, they've actually set a government-led initiatives, funds, invested only on technopreneurs. So basically, the terminology technopreneurship is prevalent in those 3 countries. and we can see a lot of startups are actually coming out from those countries. They embedded technopreneurship in their school curriculum, their college curriculum. They actually have master degrees in technopreneurship. It's just incredible that they put a less focus on entrepreneurship and more focus on technopreneurship, which has all the elements of entrepreneurship in it as well. Now, let's not forget Bahrain. Took a while for that to come back on. Let's not forget about Bahrain. Bahrain is doing amazing in terms of this scene, the startup scene. And we've heard His Excellency Khalid Rameih a few minutes ago, where he spoke that we want to be a hub for startups. We're doing a lot. The ecosystem in Bahrain is fabulous. We may not call it technopreneurs or technopreneurship, but we are actually working on this tech scene a lot. All those technologies that we're introducing to the market. The government regulations have been relaxed. Economic support has been provided through Tamkeen and other means of funding. Human capital, His Excellency Khalid Rameih as well last week in Your Money spoke about building a base of coders, of developers in Bahrain, that they want to actually lead the tech industry, similar to what India has done years back. In addition to that, bringing programs like Udacity through the Polytechnique. Now that takes me to the next aspect that I want to talk about very briefly of what the BIBF is doing in that scene as well. Technopreneurship. We are actually launching a technopreneurship program by June this year, which runs either a startup, SME, or those entrepreneurs that want to scale their business to become the next technopreneurs. So we kickstart your tech innovation journey through introducing a number of technologies like IoT, AI, fintech, blockchain, all those technologies separately. We will explain them each and every one individually. Then moving on to design thinking, how you actually can think creatively, innovate the way that you work, and basically put product to market in a very agile perspective. Then going on building your support environment. What are the risks that you're going to face with your business? How you can actually manage the project, how you can manage the people that are working with you. And moving on to the last module, which is basically promoting your technovation. All the social media tools that you have and how you actually can utilize them to actually put yourself out there for the region, for the world, and so on, so forth. Just think about it. Who are you in this journey? Just the last note that I actually want to make. Who are you in this journey? Are you part of the 93% followers across the world? Or you want to distinguish yourself? You want to be part of the 7% leaders? You want to be part of the 7% leaders who actually disrupt the economy. So either be distinct or be extinct. Thank you very much. Thanks.
So next we have a panel hosted by Zain talking about diversity in the workplace. And I'm going to hand over the mic to Hadia Fathallah, Executive Director, C5 Accelerate from Bahrain.
Good morning.